Hello, I'm Graham Fitch, coming from Steinway Hall in London and bringing you this video on technical exercises for Pianist magazine. And this video is all about exercises and studies at the intermediate and advancing levels. Now, of course, whether we practice finger exercises or whether we shouldn't practice them is so much open to debate and discussion, and if you get a bunch of piano teachers together, they're going to get very heated about this. So we have to keep in mind that the history, a little bit of the history of these exercises. There was a time in the development of piano playing when it was believed that we separate technical work from the repertoire. So people sat there for hours a day doing kind of dry, boring, repetitive, mechanical exercises in the belief that you could transfer those skills directly across to the piece that you were playing, the repertoire that you were playing. And it since turns out that actually that's not really the case. So we don't need hours of dreary exercises, but we can certainly use exercises wisely for a definite purpose, and this is the point for me. Do them mindfully. It's not so much what you do, but how you do them that counts. So if we start off with what an exercise should be, it's short, it should be short and sweet and easy to remember so that you can look down at your fingers as soon as possible and concentrate on the particular choreography or technical skill that you're wanting to develop and install. So a good example of that might be using a scale for some purpose. So let's say you are playing, I think I've used this example before, but let's say you're playing the arabesque of Debussy. You know, the first arabesque, and you're struggling with the 2/3 rhythm. Simply practice a scale 2/3 where the 3 is in the right hand. Etc. Do it at the speed of the arabesque, and you'll have extracted the difficulty and applied the difficulty to something much simpler or something that you already know, and then you can transfer that across to the piece. Not lock, stock and barrel, but you'll be able to feel and hear whether your 2/3 are as good in the piece as they were in the scale. Do you see where I'm coming from with that? Now, one set of exercises I really like are the reflective keyboard studies of Vincent Persichetti of Opus 138. I've got set 1 here, the first from set 1, and they're all mirror studies, which is fantastic because whatever I'm doing in the right hand, I'm doing in mirror form in the left hand. So if I wanted to practice a scale of E major in my right hand, using the natural symmetry of the keyboard, I can practice a scale of A flat major in the other hand simultaneously, starting on the 3rd degree. If you're confused about this, I have made a video on symmetrical inversions. So search on YouTube, Pianist magazine, my name, Graham Fitch, and just look up symmetrical inversion, and you will find a whole video devoted to this. But briefly, I'm using the natural symmetry of the keyboard. So if I want to start on E in the right hand, I have to start on a C in the left hand. When I play a black note with my second finger in the right hand, I'm playing a black note with my second finger in the left. So everything is mirrored. And that's Persichetti's first reflective study, which is so valuable and so interesting to play and incredibly useful. Double thirds at the intermediate level. Fantastic to be practicing double thirds because they develop the supposed weak fingers, the 4th and 5th, and make them as strong and as agile as the strong fingers 1, 2, 3. Do you see how that works? Cycle through the keys. So what I'm doing is I'm using a modulating pattern of major to minor to diminished and then dominant seventh on the last one. Minor. There's my diminished and there's my dominant seventh. So just a little word about the alignment that we need to keep in mind when we're practicing double thirds. Very, very important to move from a thumb alignment to a pinky alignment so that I'm not always in this position. I move laterally. And the other thing I'm doing is using my wrist as a spring. So I come up, up, up. So I can feel that happening really fast when it becomes a vibration. So if we start off understanding that the wrist has to be behind the finger that's playing, and we can use our arm to add, sort of turbocharge the fingers. If you don't want to do something as sort of a little bit dry and mechanical as that exercise, and by the way, if you want to find that exercise, any book of technical studies is going to have a whole section devoted to double notes, double thirds, so you'll find your own patterns that suit you. But coming to the Persichetti, number 7, again, chromatic, this happens to be chromatic thirds, but in symmetrical inversion. I'll play you a little bit of this study. What I like about this is that it's rhythmical, it's zingy, he's got dynamics, he's got some pedaling in there, so it hardly feels like a study. The other thing that's really good about it, or about all of them, is they're super short. So he has a repeat, which effectively makes it twice as long to play, but half as long to learn. So it's economical from the time point of view. Very, very well worth looking at. Now, if you have been brought up on Hanon and that sort of ilk, and you like that, and you use those exercises in a coordinated way, you might be interested in some harmonic exercises for piano by somebody called Claire Fischer, F-I-S-C-H-E-R, and Claire is actually a guy, and he was a jazz pianist. Published by Advanced Music. What you've got here is a chromatic sequence of chords, so let me play you the sequence of chords. And so it goes. Got the idea? So you're supposed to be able to play, he's put etc. at the end of 2 lines, by which time you're supposed to have understood what the pattern is and then move through the keys. But here's how he suggests using that pattern of notes. Again, for double note practice. You see how that works? It's a really neat idea. It's much more refreshing to the ear than some of the old diatonic stuff. So again, it's open to formulae. You could do this with it. Or the other way round. Let me do that again. That's better. All sorts of possibilities for that. It sounds good, don't you think? I'm sure you might want to try that out. Now another new-ish, well it's not actually that new, but contemporary would be a better word. Contemporary publication by Donald Waxman, 175, he calls them exetudes. It's a hybrid between an exercise and an etude. 5 volumes, published by ECS Publishing. I'm just going to show you here, for legato thirds, I'll play a little bit of this. So the thirds are in the left hand at the beginning, but he's added something in the right hand. again, it's real music. It sounds like music. It's interesting and incredibly valuable educationally. Here's a little piece, a little study for staccato and legato octaves, only 4 measures long. Just finishing the Donald Waxman selection here with he's called it an A major scale as accompaniment figure. So the left hand has a scale of A major. And so it goes on. And the right hand has a few chords. So again, he's making a dry, boring scale, what could be dry and boring, interesting by having dynamics, a time signature, a metronome mark, a speed, and something in the other hand which adds the melodic interest. So really useful, these pieces. Now I'm going to show you one thing that I love to use for warming up. If I need to stay in shape or get into shape, having not played for a bit, the Rudolf Gantz exercises, contemporary and special, they're not in print, I don't think, but you can certainly dig around the internet and find them. This is his 3 before concert warm-ups. I like this, number 1. Now what it is, I'll show you slowly, is a polyrhythm in one hand, a 2 against 3 in one hand, which I like to practice with a lot of expression and flexibility. I don't want to make this dry and boring and mechanical, so I'm going to add a little bit of shape to it. So the formula is major, minor, diminished, see how that got me then to the next key down, B major. Minor. And I might want to bring out a little bit of the alto line. So I'm trying to make this interesting sound-wise, feeling-wise, adding a little bit of variety to that. And I tend to want to play it at this speed. And when I'm getting ready for a performance, I would probably play that every day to start with, to warm myself up. I'm just going to end by looking at the idea of inventing exercises from pieces. Now this occurred to me when I was a student, and one of my teachers gave me the Alfred Cortot edition of Chopin. And I can remember having played the B-flat minor sonata of Chopin from a normal edition, and then I practiced the exercises that Cortot has in his instructive edition for about a week, and it completely revolutionized my way of getting through that piece. It all felt a whole lot easier. So speaking of revolutionary, this is the revolutionary etude. I've got Cortot's practice suggestions up here. You all know the revolutionary. And so on. But if you look at the exercises that Cortot has, I use these as a starting point. I don't actually religiously go through this. So he's got a kind of formula here. And then he says, go through every key with that. Well, I'm thinking, do we really have time to do that? Is that really necessary? And my answer is no, not really. So, but I use the idea of that in the pattern itself. See how mobile I am, though? And another exercise that you could invent from that left-hand pattern would be playing the 2 and 4 together. important if you wanted to apply some doubles to that. It's another exercise that I've developed from the notes of the piece. Did you see what I did there? I played each pair of notes twice. That pair. Let me do that again. And that keeps me really engaged in what I'm doing. And each time I practice a variant of this, I'm getting a little bit closer to how I want to feel that when I play the passage. I think that's probably all I want to say about the exercises, other than perhaps just to sum up by saying, remember, a few things. Have a goal in mind when you're practicing any exercise. Don't do anything mechanically. Always listen. Always ask yourself, what am I hoping to achieve by this exercise? Attend to the sound. Does it sound good? Does it feel good in the body? And if it does not feel good in the body, then something is wrong. They should never tire you out. An exercise should not make you feel tight, tense. Always do them with physical freedom and good sound, and I think that would be my best advice. And do them in moderation, of course.